Alright, hello everyone, welcome to the new edition of this particular YouTube channel, Mr. Ade Ayobet. So, do you know the reason why a lot of people lose their money in betting every day? Is actually very simple. It's because many people don't take their time to explore other sports except the one that they are really familiar with, most especially Nigeria or Africa. Don't let me just generalize. We are more familiar with football, and sometimes if we notice that there is no consistency in it, we don't try to explore other sport games. So therefore, in this particular video, I will take you guys through the tennis betting strategy, and we are going to look into a particular bet market under this particular tennis betting strategy. And the market is predicting a particular player to win a set. That is, maybe you want to predict the player one or the player two to win a set. So the steps that we are going to take, I'm going to explain it to you guys in this particular video. So make sure that you watch this particular video from the beginning to the end, and make sure that you are not skipping any parts of this particular video so that you will not miss any important point. So, in case you are not familiar with this particular sport, it is a very simple technique, even if you are not familiar with it at all. So, one thing about tennis is that we have most times we always have it in two sets, and sometimes we can have three sets. But what can lead to some game to end up in three sets is that if they play draw, maybe in the first set, player one win. For example, in this particular situation, the first set, player one win. The second set, player two win, and they had to go to the third set. But there are some match that whereby they will have three sets officially. Are you guys getting it? Three sets officially. So in the first set, if the player one win, second set, player two win, third set, player one win again, and in the fourth, they can have it as so many as possible, like that, depending on the kind of tournament that they are playing. All right, so let us say that you want to predict your tennis game. For example, the match I just showed you guys. So the match between Mensik and Djokovic. So the first thing that you need to always look at is the odd, because in when it comes to tennis, it only involves two players. When tournament is actually a single player. Sometimes we have double, we have single. So in this kind of situation, we are having it as single, and we are looking at player one and player two, looking at the odd, and you see that okay, who are the bookmakers trying to favor? This actually happens to be the first step. First thing that you need to look into, you have to look into the odd, and then you go to this particular. Oh, sorry, before I proceed, I haven't introduced you guys to this particular app, in case some of you are concerned about which app I'm using, in case if you are not familiar with it. So this happens to be the Sofascore. I call it Sofascore tools. So Sofascore is a powerful tool, for tennis bettors. This video will explore the specific features and data points within Sofascore that can be used to inform your tennis betting strategy. So I'm very sure this particular app is very very common, so you guys are already familiar with it. But so if you guys are looking at this particular aspect of matches, whereby they are going to be showing you data on their streaks and so many more like that, so I always consider some points here before making my decision, because I look at so many things. I predict players that are expected to win the game as to win at least a set, because that seems to be more safe. Because in betting, most times betting is basically luck, but using strategy is just to increase the chance. So now if you look at this particular data that you guys are seeing here, you can see that they said the player one, which happens to be Fritz, it has three win streaks, and the same thing goes to the and they add the same data when it comes to set one, and that is fine. But another thing that you need to also consider is their head-to-head streak. So it shows that Fritz, which happens to be the player one, had four winning streaks, and in the last five games, you can see that the player one happens to be the dominant player in the last previous games against each other. And it shows that if the bookmakers are allocating this kind of odds, 1.44, and the odds are, to me, if there's a way they calculate, there's a way they usually form their odds. Odds are basically they are based on, they are mostly based on percentage of winning, probability of winning. So 1.44 odds shows that there is 69% chance that the player one is going to win this particular game. So this particular thing that you guys are seeing here, which happens to be 83%, it shows that every time they allocate this kind of odd, or maybe the player one is having 69% chance of winning the match, it's always come out successfully at 83%, which shows that okay, this game there is a high chance of player one winning the game. And so you have to just consider all these particular factors all together, and then you go for player one to win at least a set, and that is this guy Fritz. And unfortunately, the game won at first set, because so far the player is able to win at least one set, you already won your game. So we are going to look into another games that they've played. That is the match against Djokovic and Dimitrov. And you look at this too, we can see that the bookmakers are trying to favor the player one, which happens to be Djokovic, and the player two are which happens to be Dimitrov, is allocated 4 odd. Now, if you go to the matches to check the streaks, you can see that I think they both have the same win streak, 4-4. But I think the player one had 8 set win streaks. Okay, and if you go to their head-to-head, you can see that player one has always been the dominant team, the dominant player. And looking at their odd allocation based on the percentage of chance of winning, you can see that it is actually good. So these are the things that you just need to consider. It is a very simple steps. Just look into the odds, look into the streaks, and then go to predict your games. Don't forget, the head to head too is very very important. So the listed steps that I mentioned, you have to follow it very well. So if you don't understand this, please make sure that you go back, watch it very well, and understand it. Because in this particular game, we have the match between Mensik and Fritz. And don't forget, the first steps is to look into the odds allocated by the bookmakers. Then secondly, you need to look, at least first look at the odd. Secondly, you look at the streaks. Actually, in this particular game, if at all maybe probably you missed a particular steps, or you ignore a particular step, you would have won the game as a particular player to win at least a set. Because in this match, Fritz won the second set before he eventually lost the game entirely. But one thing about this game is that there are some data in it that are not actually right if you follow the steps. So you would have avoided the game if you actually follow the step. But actually, if you miss a particular step, you would have luckily won this particular game too. So moving on to the matches, we can see that the streaks here shows that the player, which happens to be player one, that the bookmakers are allocating the big odds to, has a winning streak that is more than that of the player two, which is having 4. And looking at the set one, the total numbers of set one, the streak, we can see that player one, which happens to be Mensik, he had 7 set one streak. And looking at the last head-to-head meeting, we can see that they only played once before they eventually played a recent, and it shows that player two won that particular match. So there are so many complicating factors in this particular data that shows that there is high probability that player two also can win this particular game, and player one can also win this particular game. But if you look at this order allocation too, order allocation, yeah, but I'm sure the thing reduced as the result of the player two losing this particular match. I'm very sure this particular uh, winning percentage, I'm sure it was higher than this. So this particular data is very complicating. But if you still ignore these particular steps of streaks, the team streaks, if you avoid this data alone, this one and this, if you avoid it, you would have won your game. So in tennis, don't try to say that you want to predict straight winning. It is a very risky attempt. When it comes to tennis, it is not based on maybe team's ability. It is based on individual ability, and if there is anything wrong with that individual, it can affect the game. So that is how this particular strategy works. So before you start investing big on this particular strategy, please, I want to advise you guys that make sure that you practice, you test it, and if you see that you are getting it and there is consistency, then you can start investing big on it. However, if you happen to be someone that is very busy, and probably maybe you don't always have time to do analysis, you can actually join us on our private circle group, and you can find the group link in the video description and also in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe if you are just joining us on this particular channel, like our video, and drop your comment in case you have any question regarding to this particular strategy. And if you want to ask questions regarding to our private circle groups, you can also ask about it. All right, so see you guys in the next video, whereby we are going to be talking about basketball betting strategy or probably predictions. Bye.